I had to go through a lot of things and I had to learn a lot of stuff by myself, even as a young child. My mother never taught me womanly things. I had to learn stuff from like the school nurse and stuff like that.
Wow.
So I went through a lot of stuff. My fear was not living past the age of like 10 years old,
Even as a young
and
girl, and we as children, we aspire for that. I want to be older. I want to be driving the things that we should be concerned about as children.
mhm.
You were just concerned about living past the age of 10. Welcome to Storytime with Sirece.
Preview.
And now, let's all welcome your host, Sirece Thomas. Welcome. I am so excited that you guys are joining us with another Story Time with Sirece. Today, we're going to actually be diving into a very touchy subject, really on the lines of child abuse and how to come and overcome from that. And I am very excited and blessed to have Jenn Williamson with us today. Give it up for Jenn Williamson.
Hi.
I met Jenn when I was with Fox 43 TV on the Hampton Road Show, and she was coming on with some of those segments with a bowling lead, always just positive and bubbly and pouring back into the community with the things that she does. And now today she is a caretaker, still helping people today. Like I said, I see Jenn all the time. She's always got a
Mhm.
smile on her face. She's always got something sweet to say. But this is the thing, you never know where people have come from. And Jenn recently has shared her story with me and has asked to be on Storytime with Sirece. And I am honored to be able to dive into just a snippet of her chapter of growing up as a young girl in a very abusive home. Now, Jenn, we're going to focus on starting with a little bit of how that fear paralyzed you as a young girl. I know you shared a little bit about the relationship with you and your mother. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my mother grew up in a broken home, and she was the third oldest, and the rest of the children below her, they were all put in a children's home. So, I found out both of her parents were alcoholics and stuff. And my mother's thing was never letting us be apart. She always sheltered us. She did not like us to interact with other children. Plus, my brothers were born with PKU, which is a form of mental retardation. So my mother spent most of her time, if not all of it, taking care of them. And my sisters and myself, not, we did not have PKU. I do have Asperger's, and it's a form of autism, but I'm
Mhm.
very high functioned, and I've had to learn a lot of stuff by myself. I really had to figure it out. I mean, the times where my mom would, when I was 4 years old, I spilled a glass of milk and she was choking me. And the only reason I'm alive is because a neighbor came upstairs for some coffee creamer and caught her and stopped her, and it was like, so I always thought I would never make it past the age of 10 years old.
Wow.
I had to learn a lot. She was not a nurturing mother. She had no empathy. She never told you she loved you. She never hugged you, nothing. I mean, as for my brothers, she put them up on pedestals. And, I don't hold any of that against my brothers because I would defend them to this day. I always would defend them no matter what. I volunteered for the Special Olympics. I was a unified player coach with my brothers and stuff like that. But I had to go through a lot of things and I had to learn a lot of stuff by myself, even as a young child. My mother never taught me womanly things. I had to learn stuff from like the school nurse and stuff like that. So
Wow.
I went through a lot of stuff. My fear was not living past the age of like 10 years old, even,
Even as a young
and
girl, and we as children, we aspire for that. I want to be older. I want to be driving the things that we should be concerned about as children.
mhm.
You were just concerned about living past the age of 10.
I was homeless for 5 months.
Wow.
When I was 18, I left home at 17 and I moved in with some friends that were older. And my mother tried to have me put in jail because I moved out. She said I was a runaway. And I told the police officers and stuff, they came to the school and they said, well, she said you ran away. I said, look, I'm gonna be 18 in 2 weeks. I said, you could throw me in jail first. I'm not going back there. She's crazy. I said, she beats me all the time. And
Did they put you in jail or did they let you go?
no, they told her they we can't do nothing about it. She's gonna be 18 in a few weeks. And she was mad as hell. She called up, she cussed them all out and fussed at them. And oh my God. I mean,
Was that your last time being with your mother?
yeah, I mean, pretty much. I never lived with her again.
Never went back.
No, I could not go back there. I got many scars on my body. I have marks up here on my head where she busted my head open. I have a scar over here where she busted my head open. And I always thought about my father. My father was a good man. He worked 6 days a week. He never really seen how badly she was abusing me. She would let my brothers pick on me, call me names, hit me. And if I ever tried to defend myself, she'd beat the heck out of me. Her favorite tools, and I call them tools, is like a thick leather belt, or she'd take the sticks from the window shades, or she'd get a switch from outside, stuff like that.
Your father was the one that would come to your rescue.
My father was my Superman. And that's, he'll always be my Superman. He was a hardworking man. He was 2 years younger than my mother. My mother was best friends with his sister that was 2 years older. So my father, at 18 years old, my mother was pregnant. And my grandmother had to sign for him to get married. And she said, my baby boy is getting married,
Wow.
and then like 4 months later, my sister came along, my oldest sister in 57. So my father, right off the bat, he always worked. He was a machinist for 44 years. And he also worked in the bakeries on Saturday, so he always worked,
Wow.
so, Monday through
Oh,
Saturday, it was like, you
yeah.
know,
He
yeah,
wasn't home. He was always at work. So
he
while
was
your
always
dad
at
was
work.
at work, you had to fend for yourself, not just from your mother, but from your brothers.
Yeah.
You mentioned that your father passed, but you didn't know right away.
Yeah. My mother, I found out at 4:30 in the morning on Facebook. My nephew said my grandfather died. I prayed for him. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So I called her up. I said, what happened? And she says, oh, he died. Like nothing. Like taking out yesterday's trash.
How
That's
old
how
were
she,
you?
um see, that was 2012. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
I might have been in my 40s, I think, because I'm
Okay.
55 now. Oh,
But she didn't tell you. Even in your adult years, she remained who she was.
I loved her. It hurt me so bad because I loved her. You know, when you have a child, for the first like 8 weeks with that child, you bond with that child. I don't think she did. I honestly don't feel she did.
I love your honesty in saying that you were so confused as a child because you loved her so much.
And I didn't understand it, and I'm like, is this love or what? And then she had asked me when I was a teenager, she's like, she had beat me for something stupid. One of my brothers was picking on me and I pushed him. Then she came upstairs and beat me, and then she went downstairs and later on she says, are you going to eat dinner? And I was like, nope, I'm not hungry,
Mm.
and then the next day I came down to eat breakfast to get ready for school. And she's like, why do you hate me so much? So I told her, I said, why didn't you just let me die when I was 4 years old? Then I wouldn't have had to live through 14 years of torture and torment by you. I says, you're my mother. I came from your womb. I says, and this is how you treat me. I
Mm.
said, you wonder why I hate you? I said, I don't hate you. I says, I can't judge you like that. I says, only
Mm.
God can,
Wow.
but I tried to get away from her when I was 11. I
No.
got beat really bad. I had a bleeding ulcer. Okay. And I remember my doctor saying, one more time you get sick, young lady, you're going to have to go to the hospital. So she beat me really bad. I went to the drugstore. I got a whole packet of caplets. I didn't care what they were. Took them home, took the whole thing, opened them up. That's when you can open them. and I just to get away from her.
Wow.
So my father took me to the hospital, and you know, um, and my mother constantly called me. I was right next to the baby ward, but she constantly called me for 2 days, telling me I was no good. I was costing them money and all this other stuff. So a nurse came in at like 2 o'clock in the morning. You know how they wake you up when you're sleeping
Yep.
to take your vitals. And I was crying my eyes out. And she's like, "What's the matter?" I said, "Please take the phone out." I says, "I don't want to hear her no more." I was so upset and I was scared. And she says, "What's the matter?" I said, "I don't want her calling me no more." She says, "Who?" I said, "My mother." I says, "I tried to get away from her and she's still bothering me." My
Mm.
father didn't realize how bad she was treating me.
Wow.
I tried to kill myself to get away from this woman.
Whew.
So
And
yeah,
yet God had other plans for you, Jen. Thank
he
God
does, no
for
matter what.
that.
Yes, he
No
does.
matter what.
So
Wow. The Bible talks a lot about, children and who children are, the gems of this world and child abuse. And it
mhm,
even there's a verse in there that talks about, those that, abuse children should,
mhm.
what is this? The way that it said it, I was just, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. I was just like, wow, because I was looking at this. There's a couple of verses. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for them if a great millstone were hung around their neck and they were thrown into the sea. I mean, you know how the Lord feels about children. And it was just, for me, when I read that verse, it's just like I'm sad for children in the world that are vulnerable and voiceless. And I'm sad for those that inflict the pain on children, because that's going to come back around, and God does not take those things lightly. And to hear that your fear was simply not making it past 10 is devastating. um but you made it past 10. So tell me a little bit about, as a young girl, and it's crazy how you said, we talk about parents and we praise parents so much, but that's just not everybody's story. And so I'm just thankful for your courage in coming on here and sharing that. And living past 10, you must have had a focus. What was your focus once you realized you were in a situation that was toxic and devastating, traumatic? What was your focus?
My focus, um, I used to imagine a lot of things. I poured myself into music. Music calms me down. It was to the point where I would walk around the house with headphones just so I didn't have to hear her voice.
Wow.
And she would get mad because I'd be ignoring her, and I just didn't want to hear her. I would think about things. There were times when I did get beat. I would lay in bed crying and say, "God, please take me. I don't want to live no more." And my thing was this, God said, "No, I have so many things in store for you. Just hold on." And then it's like I read a passage where God does not give uh, us anything that he feels that we cannot handle. That's like putting on the armor of God.
Wow.
And she would get mad because I'd be ignoring her, and I just didn't want to hear her. I would think about things. There were times when I did get beat. I would lay in bed crying and say, "God, please take me. I don't want to live no more." And my thing was this, God said, "No, I have so many things in store for you. Just hold on." And then it's like I read a passage where God does not give uh, us anything that he feels that we cannot handle. That's like putting on the armor of God, where
I
we
love that
live.
you emphasized that he feels, because
Yes.
sometimes we're there and we're like, this is too much. But he knows
Mm-hmm.
us better than we know ourselves. And he told you, Jen, there's two things that you said. He
Mm-hmm.
reminded you he's got great plans for you.
Yeah.
And he reminded you that he would not give you anything more than what you can bear. And I love that. So it sounds like your focus was in your faith. When did you get introduced to faith, especially growing up in such a traumatic situation? How
Well,
did you
there was
find
a
God in that?
church in our backyard adjacent to us, and it was a very charismatic church, jumping in the aisles, dancing and singing gospel music. And I would sit out there in the tree and just listen to it, and I'd listen to the charismatic preacher. His name was Wesley Elder, And sometimes I go back there and I see them. He's still around and kicking and still doing his preaching and everything. He was a great man, but I mean, I've always been drawn to the gospel music, and one thing about coming down here in Virginia, there's like the Bible Belt, so I used to go to a Pentecostal church as well. God is always God. He's always there for you in life. He's always here for me. He's the one constant, and I try to stay in the light. I try, but I do have to admit there are dark days sometimes, but I've been doing really good the past several months. I was working for a company that was pretty measurable, and I found a really good company to work with. I have a phenomenal boss. Matter of fact, she's helping me transcribe a lot of my writings and stuff. I hope to have it sent to a publisher and have everything published to help people. My thing is share my experience with people so they don't go down the road that I had to go down to.
Wow, exactly.
So and
that,
that's
Jenn.
what I have to do. I always tell people bad things happen to the nicest people, but that's God testing us to see if we are going to stand there, dig our heels in and stay there, and that's what I've had to do. I mean, even recently I had to put down my therapy dog. It broke my heart to do that, but I stayed with him. He was sick. And ironically, it was Mercy. Mercy. Yes.
Look at you, Jenn. I mean, I love how we have to remember that even in our darkest places, God will find us. He's always there. And he was in your backyard calling you out to him with gospel music. And through that time, your focus and your faith. And here you are today, being able to share your story. And I know you're very transparent because we're human. And I know you even shared with me that whole process of forgiveness is something you're still working on. We don't always, just, all is forgiven. And I really appreciate your transparency for that. Tell me a little bit about your journey on forgiveness.
Well, daily we have to, Galatians 5:24, we have to crucify the flesh daily. Okay, I'm not perfect. Do I cuss? Yes, I cuss. And that's like, okay, God, forgive me. People are like, oh yeah, you cuss, you do dirty things. I said, you know what? We're human.
We are human.
Let him without sin cast the first stone. Just like Jesus told them men that wanted to stone that woman. Come on, really? Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, if that's the term you could use.
That's it. I know that. Listen, Jenn, I'm right with you. I cuss sometimes too. The Lord knows my heart. We and I think the biggest thing is, we live in a relationship with God where he is constantly he has forgiven us.
Yes.
And he and for the dirtiest, darkest little things, the thoughts and actions, the sin of omission and sin of commission, he forgives us. And then he turns around, but he says, as I have forgiven you, forgive others. And I know that's the hard part that we deal with because we hold on with someone in your position and in your shoes, someone who's been betrayed by people that are supposed to love you, people that are supposed to care for you. And that's where it hurts the most, when it's the people that are closest to you. And that forgiveness we learn is not for ourselves, it's for that person so that we can be free from that. That forgiveness allows us to let go. And it's very hard to do that. So I commend you, Jenn. We have to have you back here on your journey from fear to faith to forgiveness. And I really thank you for sharing that, because this message right here is going to bless people around the world. And
I hope it does.
That you trusted this platform to share it. But we can't wait to have you back, Jenn. I thank you so much. You guys give it up for Jenn Williamson, and she's still pouring her bright spirit into this world. We love you and thank you. And we know that God still has great plans for you and all that you do, even with sharing your testimony here on Storytime with Sirece. Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. This is why we tell these stories, so that people out there know that they're not alone and that there are other people who have overcome through faith and forgiveness, all with the direction of Jesus Christ. We are so, so happy for that. Thank you so much, Jenn, and we cannot wait to have you back on the show.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.